Welcome back, everyone. I've got a little booklet here with some origami paper in it. We're going to start a talk about fractions, actually folding a piece of paper. And the reason that I do that, I just want to see how you fold that paper. So perhaps by the time we're watching this video, we've already covered this part of the talk, because what I'm looking for at this stage, if I give you the instructions to fold the piece of paper in half, I'm actually looking for some awareness of what 1/2 is. So if I see something like this where a student's said I've folded it in half, there's two options. Either they're careless, too quick or something like that, or they don't understand that 1/2, each half has to represent the same size. So it's really interesting because I ask people to fold paper in half, and to me both these things represent a half. These are pieces of paper are the same size, they come off that same block of paper. So and then we can have a discussion, are they the same? And hopefully you see that they are the same. And these bits of paper here, we can fold them in half again, and it's really interesting. I'm hoping that we understand their quarters, and then we can fold them in half again to get eighths, and we can do the work there. So here's another bit of paper that we started off folding it in half, compared to, we ended up with quarters here, but if we fold it differently we end up with quarters as well. So that's the type of understanding that I'm looking for in that exercise, and that gets us started thinking about fractions, because fractions is a problem area for students, and I guess it shouldn't be, because we're used to cutting things up into smaller equal sized pieces, whether that's a piece of fruit or a cake or something. And oddly enough, a lot of things we represent fractions with pizza, but it's probably not the best example, because it's very rare that you actually get a pizza that's cut into 8 equal sized pieces. They're always very quick with the pizza wheel, and my experience at least is that that's not a really good representation of fractions. Now we're doing this work on fractions, and we have to understand what this word fraction means. It means break into smaller equal sized pieces. Okay? With the paper example, even though we just folded, we didn't cut, we could have cut along those folded lines if we wanted to. We folded that paper into quarters, so each little square can be represented this way. We would say 1/4. Okay, we've got 4 quarters, so we can represent that as 4/4, and that's equal to 1. We call that the whole. Okay, putting it all back together, if you like. Okay, so what we have, this way of representing fractions, this number could be anything, and this number below the line, and that line is called the vinculum, could be anything as well. Okay, so we could put any number we like into this box up here, and that is the numerator. And this box below the line, or below the vinculum, is called the denominator. I just remember D for down, and so that's below the line. That's what I remember, at least anyway, when I'm trying to work out those two words. So maybe that's helpful for you in that little game of working out what each of the words mean. So there's different types of fractions, and the first one is a proper fraction, where the numerator is smaller than the denominator. Okay, so I'm just thinking, like what I was saying there, it could be any number. Let's do 7. Let's cut something up into 7 smaller equal size pieces. Okay, so we could have 1 piece, 2 pieces of the 7, so on, so on, so on, up until 7 over 7, where we've got the whole thing back again. Okay, so the next thing that happens, and I'm just going to change the color of my pen here, is that we move into this space where we have improper fractions. And the IM here means not. This little prefix in front of proper. So guess what? Guess what? What happens here is the numerator becomes larger than the denominator. Okay, so in this case, we would say 8 over 7. We could write that as equivalent to 1 and 1/7 as a mixed number. And let's try another example here. Let's make this 15 over 7. Now I see this as 14 plus 1 over 7. So what happens here with the 14? 7 goes in there twice. So this is equivalent to 2 and 1/7. Okay, it's really, improper fractions are really useful in certain situations, and it's a good skill to practice to be able to convert between mixed numbers and improper fractions. So, and here's another situation where we will see this. Perhaps we're adding fractions. Say we have 2 over 7 plus 6 over 7, and we add them together to get the numerators. 2 plus 6 is 8 over 7. Suddenly we were dealing with proper fractions, and our answer over here is an improper fraction, and we may be asked to leave it that way, or we may be asked to turn that into 1 and 1/7 as a mixed number. Okay, so just be aware of that. And the final thing I think that's important is ways to represent fractions as sketches. Okay. It's quite okay to draw a circle if you like. This rarely happens. I think I spoke about it cutting a pizza up. Rarely do we see that the slices are equal. So one of these fractions in here represents 1/8. Together they represent the whole thing. Be careful on questions when they ask you to either tell us what the shaded fraction is or the unshaded. So you'll see these words here, shaded, unshaded, in your questions. Just be very careful what they represent, okay? And be very careful. Here's my final example for you. Perhaps we've got a shape here, and they're asking you what fraction of the shape that is, and it's really hard to tell, because the giveaway here is that all these pieces, remember, coming back to the very thing, the very word of the fraction, they're unequal sizes. So we don't actually know with any precision what this shaded area represents. And just be careful of those types of questions. And it's really why these types of questions are being asked, and that's because in this introduction exercise we're actually checking that you understand this bit here at the start, what a fraction actually means. So hopefully that's enough to get you started.